Hello everyone, my name is Jordan Arell, making my daily video on circumcision, and today I want to tell you a little bit about why circumcision is ending and why it's really wise to not circumcise your son, because if you do, he will understand and see it as genital mutilation, as all men will in 18 years from now. So, the first and most important reason is simply because it's objectively true that circumcision is extremely harmful and has no benefits. This truth has always been true for the last 100 years that we've been doing it in America, the only country that really does it, for supposedly medical reasons. But the fact is, there aren't any real medical reasons to do it. I'm not going to go deep into it, but for example, one reason they give is it is supposed to prevent cancer. Penile cancer is one of the most rare diseases in the world. It only affects elderly men, and sure, if you cut off any part of your body, you're not going to get cancer. I mean, cut off your nose, you won't get nose cancer. It's an absurd, strange, bizarre claim, and it's no different than most of the claims for why circumcision is medically beneficial. They're all just equally ludicrous. Ludicrous, beyond ludicrous. They're so stupid. I'm not going to waste any more time on that, but it is harmful as well. Circumcision removes around half the skin of the penis, half the skin, around the amount of skin that would be on the underside of your hand, about 10 times more sensitive. If you touch very lightly, you can feel the lighter you touch, it's this ticklish sensation, and that's because of the Meissner's corpuscles in your hand. There are the same kind of nerve endings in your penis and about 10 times the 10 times the concentration. Much like the clitoris, the foreskin is very similar to the clitoris. It's where the vast majority of nerve endings in the penis are, and that's why it was cut off throughout history, is to harm men's sexuality, to make it more difficult for them to masturbate, which it succeeds in doing. Intact men don't need any lubrication to masturbate, and they don't really need any lubrication during sex either, and sex is much more pleasurable for them. They can experience many different kinds of orgasms with all the different parts of their foreskin. You often experience full body orgasms that are much more intense. The entire act of sexuality is very pleasurable for them because they have so much sensitivity in their penis. They can feel their way inside the vagina. Some men described as the difference between black and white in color vision, the difference between wearing a condom and a bare skin, the difference between night and day. It's such a radical destruction of sexuality, and of course this causes huge psychological and emotional trauma for men. Many men I've talked to about this are suicidal, and you can read accounts plastered across all of the internet on how upset men are about this. It's horrific. A lot of men don't speak up in public because they're ashamed, and they're shamed if they try to bring it up. People say that's not real trauma, that's stupid. Even psychologists, around half of psychologists, will dismiss it completely and say, laugh them out of the room, or say you must be dealing with something else and be projecting it onto this. The fact that you've had your genitals mutilated or circumcised, as we of course euphemize it, can't possibly be affecting you. It's ridiculous. And so men are extremely traumatized by it, and there's almost no help for them. I'm trying to fix that, but right now there's practically nothing out there. And last of all, it's a human rights issue. You're cutting the genitals off of a child. It's the exact same as female genital mutilation. If you really think about how are they different, it's the most sensitive part of the penis. It makes a man much less likely to experience or able to experience much less pleasure during sex. And circumcised women are completely happy with it. They're very happy with their sex lives. They think it's great. We project this image onto female genital cutting cultures because we imagine they must be so different. If you really look at them, they're the exact same. And most women who have had their genitals mutilated are perfectly fine with it, perfectly happy, won't have it any other way, because they just don't understand the truth, as we don't. So the reason that this is changing now, even though it's been going on for almost 100 years, is because of the internet. plain and simple, it's the internet. That's it. I mean, there's a lot of activism going on. There's a lot of people speaking up, but how do all these people find out about it? Why do people all of a sudden seem to care so much? Because online, you can find out all of this information extremely easily. It's so easy to find out how harmful circumcision is, to read report after report after report of the trauma of it, of how it affects sexuality, and to find out all this information about sensitivity, etc. And it's horrifying. And people who learn about it generally only go one way. There's actually been studies done on this. The more you know about circumcision, the more against it you are. The more you hate it, the more you think it's the worst thing in the world. And so as people find out about this more and more, understand it better and better, people just become more and more passionate. And there's some of the most passionate activists in the world called intactivists. Activists for keeping babies intact and not cutting their genitals. And intactivists really, they're so full of fire. It's absolutely incredible. And they're never going to stop. They're never going to back down. They're never going to be quiet. And so people are just going to keep finding out about this more and more. The internet's always going to be more invading our lives, not less. And as it just becomes more impossible to avoid these facts, all this information, eventually everybody will know this, and nobody would ever consider doing this to their child when they really understand how horrible it is. That it's really one of the worst things you can do to a human being. You know, there's also some activists who are doing really, really amazing work now that I haven't ever seen in the past. People like Eric Klopper and his play Sex and Circumcision, which you can now watch on YouTube. Has about 30,000 views, and that's in the first couple weeks. So that's very exciting. Probably the best thing ever produced to date by orders of magnitude. And Brendan Murata's, which is equally incredible in different ways. 6 years of research and filming into 1 hour and 40 minutes, packed full of one of the most beautifully crafted arguments against circumcision that's ever been created. Not that it's against circumcision, it just presents the facts of both sides, actually the top voices of both sides, all of the top voices in the movement, all of the couple top voices who say it's actually a good thing. And it just becomes so obvious to anyone who watches that movie that this is horrible. It's a human rights violation of the 21st century. And that's going to be released on August 31st. And again, it's pretty much better by so much than anything else that's ever been released on the topic. And it's going to spread. It's going to keep spreading because it's so easy to access this information. And when people find out about it, I can't see it not going viral. As well as other activists. I'm creating these videos every day. I'm planning on doing a lot more in the future. Stay tuned. And so many people are just getting more and more passionate about it. The more people find out about it, the more that passionate they get. The more quickly this information spreads until it reaches that tipping point in society where it is the conversation of our time. Which brings me to another point. In 2012, we had the gay rights movement, and everyone was talking about it, everyone was thinking about it. It's like, why aren't we letting gay people marry? Like, is it really natural? Is it God? Like, whatever, the whole discussion. And that's the kind of thing that youngsters today have grown up with. That trans movement, all this social justice stuff is just pervading our society. And the younger generation, everyone I talk to under maybe 25 or so, is pretty much against circumcision. And they're the ones who are going to be having babies in the next few years. So basically, every single person who's going to have a baby has this understanding of human rights, of social justice, of why everybody should have autonomy over themselves. It's just who people are today. And, you know, some people in their late 20s, early 30s who are still having babies are still circumcising to some degree. It's actually around 50% now rate, which is really, really important, because as the rate continues to fall, it will also become less popular. You know, people say, well, everybody's doing it, right? Well, actually no, people aren't anymore. People are doing it less and less. I actually expect the rates are probably already below 50%, which means you're actually putting your child in the minority by cutting his genitals off. That's pretty fucked up. Like, not only are you slicing off part of his cock, you're also making him the odd one out by doing that. If kids used to get teased for being intact, for having their whole penis, imagine how much he's going to be teased for having had part of his dick cut off, and he's the only one. It's so fucked up. That's so beyond fucked up. I mean, it's already fucked up, but that makes it even worse. And so, as the younger generation basically understands this intuitively, and furthermore has access to all this information, all these media resources that are being created, it's and people consult the internet more and more, especially this younger generation, for their information. Google it. It's just what you do. It's just normal. And as well as younger doctors coming up as well, who can access this super easily. So another thing, some countries are looking to ban this as more and more countries think about banning it, are bringing it to parliament, are addressing it. It's like, that's just increasing the discussion even more here in the US, where we actually do it. I mean, there it's only Jewish circumcision and Islamic circumcision that really exists. And so it's like, it's really, they're facing the most difficult part of it, which is this religious element. It's like, is it okay to mutilate your child if it's for your religion? I mean, it's still kind of a weird, really dumb question, but it's a serious question that they're asking. And we haven't even come to the point, is it okay to mutilate your child just because you feel like it? I mean, but as it's being very seriously questioned by law in those countries, I think we're going to start to, also be like, wait a minute, why would anyone ban that? And that's going to make us think about it more and more. Especially as eventually we would be at least the last one who hasn't banned it. I think that because of all these reasons I just stated, it could be in the next couple of years that we actually ban it, that it could accelerate really, really rapidly, and that people will realize that circumcision is one of the worst things in the world that you can do to a human being. Circumcision is male genital mutilation. No way around that. Finally, Foragen, kind of the black sheep of the family, or that's not the word I'm looking for. The dark horse. That's it. The dark horse. If Foragen gets its funding that it's hoping to get in the next year or two and succeeds before the movement takes off, I find that unlikely. I think the movement will have to be more successful, and people have to realize how harmful it is to invest in it. But that's not necessary. I mean, they only need a few $1 million. It could really happen first. And when we're able to show that, regenerating your foreskin makes you feel way more pleasure sexually, makes your dick larger, makes it function better. I think that could really, if we're just totally drowning out the opposition with ads about why the foreskin is so amazing, and we have testimonials, we have people who can, say what difference they feel, and speak directly to that. I think that this could also be a huge, huge element of really shifting the conversation. So, which is part of why I am really all for Foragen and the hopeful message that they spread, which I also think makes it much easier to spread, because people want to have hope, want to have, say, oh shit, my penis could be like way better. I think that could even go viral if we create a really, really effective campaign, and people realize how awesome this could be. That could be something that people get excited about and just share because it's amazing. But that would take a lot of really, really skillful marketing on Foragen's part. I hope to continue to work with that and be a part of that, but we'll see. Regardless, I believe circumcision will end very soon. I believe that we will regenerate the foreskin very soon. And I'll leave you with one last question, which is, do you want your son to grow up and know that you had access to all this information, know that you could see how horrible this was of a thing, and really research it and understand it, and still you chose to cut his genitals rather than give him a choice, rather than let him consent to a procedure that permanently alters his sexuality? Yeah, I think that's really, really something we should think deeply about and be asking each other, and keep on spreading this understanding of what is circumcision really? What is it? You're cutting off part of a baby's penis for no reason. And I think that's a really, really, really important thing to think about. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. As always, I will be back tomorrow with another video. Till then.